I worked as a trucker in my early 30s. In terms of money, it was an okay gig, but I would often have to drive hours to days cross country no matter what time of day and what the weather was like. One night, I was driving through a desolate, marshy area after midnight somewhere in Alabama. I was getting tired and out of caffeine, so I pulled onto the road shoulder to take a break. I was just leaning back in my seat, trying to get some rest, when I randomly reopened my eyes just to see something large and hairy in a flash darting past my headlights and across the road. It gave me a fright, but I didn't dwell on it. Having barely seen it allowed me to chalk it up to it just being some swamp animal. Just as I was finally drifting off to sleep a little while later, I was jolted back to reality to my seat vibrating. I looked around, baffled, and realized the entire truck was vibrating forcefully, and there were loud bangs coming from around the back. What the hell? I muttered and dragged myself out of the truck. I was hearing banging on the doors around the back of the truck and loud snorting and grunting that sounded like a gorilla's. I was honestly shitting myself, my back pressed up against the side of the truck, in the middle of some pitch-black swamp with some large animal behind my truck. I remembered I had an emergency Maglite flashlight that can provide light for over 400 yards in my glove compartment. I decided to grab it, make sure that this animal hadn't damaged the truck too badly, and haul ass out of there. When I rounded the back of the truck with the flashlight, I was shocked. There were these huge-ass claw marks and scrapes all over the doors. At that moment, I heard some low growling-type throat noise to my right from the foliage. I spun around and the flashlight watched over the dense leaves. I could clearly see some gigantic, hairy humanoid beast shrouded in the leaves watching me. I barely processed what I had seen before I was back in the driver's seat and speeding away as fast as that truck could go down that road. By now, all remnants of fatigue I had in my body were gone as adrenaline surged through my veins as I floored it to the nearest gas station to grab some more coffee. It was another exhausting 3 hours, but by morning I had finally arrived at my destination and had a much-needed sleep in the parking lot. Since then, I've quit my job as a trucker, since the consistent long drives away from home were really beginning to take a toll on me. I've yet to truly know what I witnessed in the swamp that night. A bear or an ape would be the closest resembling to what I saw, but seeing either of those animals would be extremely unusual for the area I was in, not to mention those bizarre claw marks. Friends and family I've recounted to suggest the concepts of Sasquatch or a skunk ape. I'm still on the fence about what I saw. All I know is it unnerves me deeply to think about it. I was a UPS trucker briefly for about a year. It wasn't like the usual trucking stories you hear. I scarcely did long, miserable drives, and even more rarely did nighttime drives. There were only 3 nighttime drives I ever did as a trucker, and the third one is the main reason why I've expanded my career opportunities. I had a load of packages in the back and was heading through some flat valley area in Nevada. It was quite the sight, a thin strip of road through a flat horizon and dust as far as the eye could see. It was strangely relaxing to me as well. I was running low on gas and snacks and still had quite a bit to go. Thankfully, I noticed a sign for a rest stop a couple miles up along the barren landscape. I decided I'd fill up and get some food, then hit the road once more, and predicted I'd reach my destination by early morning. I pulled into the rest stop and began filling my truck. The place was a ghost town. I went around the back of the building to use the restroom. The restroom, as expected, was filthy and a few of the lights were flickering. The rest were just not working at all. I entered a stall decorated with graffiti and mummified the toilet seat with paper before sitting down to take a highly anticipated crap. As I was sitting there, over the hum of the fluorescent lights, I started hearing a faint whispering from somewhere in the room. It was so faint I couldn't tell if it was in my head or not, but now that I had picked up on it, I couldn't stop hearing it. I finished up in the stall and was washing my hands at the sink, eager to get out of that creepy bathroom. Then I heard something I couldn't believe. John. It was my name, a faint whispering of my name, clear as day. I turned around, searching the room for someone. Then I heard it again. John. Finally, I noticed a pair of black boots underneath one of the stalls facing the door. I have to admit, I am prone to often unnecessary, ballsy confrontations, so I marched right up to the stall door and shouted, "Who's in there?" Another slight whisper of my name was all I got in reply. I tried the door, and it was open. I pushed it open with force, opening my mouth to make another statement, and froze. There was no one in front of me, just two empty boots placed in front of the stall door. My heart began to race. I wasn't sure what to do. An eerie feeling washed over me, and I heard sharper and more aggressive than before, my name being whispered again. John. I booked it out of the bathroom and hastily paid for the gas. I pulled out of that rest stop and never looked back. A pretty creepy experience of mine I just wanted to share. I don't know if the whole thing was some twisted joke, or if there really was some weirdo or supernatural entity in there that somehow knew my name. I was working as a trucker for Costco. One time I was driving down I-26 in Tennessee at around 4 a.m. I had already been driving for 6 hours as I had begun my journey in South Carolina, and I knew I wasn't going to make it to my destination if I didn't get some rest soon. I was going to wait until I found a rest stop, as I had been driving on a part of the road concealed by forest for about 30 minutes, and I had just passed a sign for a rest stop about a mile back. But then I noticed something that made my heart sink. The gas gauge was quickly approaching E. That made no sense to me. I should have had a full tank on this truck when I started in South Carolina. I swore and pounded the wheel, realizing I wasn't going to make it to the rest stop without running out of gas. I had no other choice but to pull to the side of the road and shut off the engine and turn off the headlights. I picked up my phone and called AAA and gave them my location to the best of my ability. Then I stayed put. I was sitting there for about 30 minutes. The pitch blackness surrounding me was honestly really unsettling, and not a single other car had passed me the entire time I was there. I would have turned on the battery to turn on the headlights and the radio, but I was trying to conserve gas in case AAA wasn't able to find me, and I'd have to drive closer to civilization or any other scenario like that. At a few points, I even considered getting out and walking to the rest stop, but I figured I would only do that if I needed to. I had the windows down, and at first all I could hear was just the steady sound of crickets chirping in the forest. But then I began to hear what sounded like footsteps on leaves gradually getting louder. It seemed something was walking through the forest. This creeped me out a bit, but I brushed it off as a deer or something. In reality, I couldn't exactly assume someone was out there watching me. I'd say another 5 minutes or so had to have gone by and I wasn't hearing any more sounds. But at that moment, the footsteps started up again, and this time I realized I was hearing 2 sets of them. Now this really freaked me out. I placed my hand on the key, ready to turn the ignition and gun it at the first sign of trouble. Then something happened I would never imagine to happen in a million years. I heard a voice echoing from somewhere out in the darkness to my right. It was a man's voice calling out to me. "I can see you," followed by a brief snicker. I heard leaves crunching and twigs snapping from what seemed like right outside the passenger door. I couldn't see anything in the dark, but I wasn't sticking around to find out who this person, or people for that matter, were or what they wanted. I started the engine, flicked on the headlights, and started turning back onto the road. I nearly had a heart attack as I heard a bang on the passenger side window. It sounded like someone had thrown an object forcefully at the window. That only made me step on it harder. I drove probably another 3 miles when I realized it wasn't going to take much longer for my engine to crap out. So once again, I was forced to pull to the side of the road and shut off the engine, headlights, and everything. I was way more on edge and alert now. I didn't have any type of weapon to defend myself. All I could do was roll up the windows and pray for the AAA guys to hurry up and get here. 15 minutes or so had gone by and I was mostly calmed down at that point. I was even starting to drift off to sleep when a large stone or something was hurled at my windshield. It jolted me awake. Now I wasn't sure what to do. I knew trying to drive away would be pointless. The tank definitely wouldn't even last another 10 minutes and then I'd be at the side of the road again, a sitting duck for whoever these people were. Fighting was clearly not an option. I didn't know if they were armed and I literally had nothing to defend myself at all. Cautiously, I turned the key a notch to start the battery and put my hand on the headlight switch. I hesitated. I wasn't entirely sure what I thought turning the headlights on would accomplish. I just wanted to see who was out there, I guess. Maybe they would even be scared off by the headlights. I turned the knob up a few notches, and the headlights flicked on, and the entire road in front of me was illuminated. That included revealing at least 5 figures, standing shoulder to shoulder and facing me, in some odd formation as if they had been waiting for me to see them. I opened the driver's side door and ran. I ran like my life depended on it, because it probably did. I couldn't tell if I was being chased or not, but I didn't stop running. I ran down the side of this desolate highway until my legs ached, my temple throbbed, and sharp cramps penetrated my chest. When it was no longer possible for me to run, I speed walked. Pure adrenaline carried me the rest of the way down the road, until at last I saw the rest stop sign on the horizon. I walked even faster until I arrived at the well-lit gas station and convenience store. I sat down inside the store and ended up falling asleep on the bench after what couldn't have been more than 5 minutes. I was awoken by the cashier and a AAA guy. He said he had found my truck further down the road and filled it up. I asked him if anyone was there, and he said he didn't see anyone and the truck was still there, despite the driver's side door being left wide open. He gave me a lift back to my truck and I was on my way. The whole thing left me deeply disturbed. I was affected by this so much I quit my job at Costco. I would have completely been content with continuing on with the job until this experience. I even had a few nightmares about the people who followed me. I don't know if they wanted to rob me or what, but nothing was missing from the truck and I had left the door wide open, with my phone sitting right in the glove compartment. That disturbs me the most, because the fact that they took nothing, even when given the perfect opportunity to, tells me that they may have had far more sinister intentions.